Heads up, today's update matters if you're earning minimum wage, managing payroll, or just working and watching your paychecks closely. There's been a lot of talk about a federal minimum wage increase for November 2025, but here's what you really need to know: what the law actually says, what states have done, and how you might be affected. In this video we'll cover whether the federal minimum wage rose this November or not. A breakdown of state minimum wages going into late 2025. How much extra you could earn, or why you may not see a raise. What employers and workers should do right now. The federal minimum wage status. First, let's get the big question out of the way: did the federal minimum wage increase in November 2025? The federal minimum wage has remained at $7.25 per hour since July 24, 2009. Dole. +2. Trading economics. +2. There is currently no law signed that raises the federal rate to a new level for November 2025. Paycor. +1. Some reports claim a proposed increase, for example to $14 per hour, in November, but these are not supported by official federal law. WCNH2024.com. In short, if you are paid at the federal minimum, you should still be at $7.25 per hour unless your state or local law says higher. Why the federal rate hasn't changed? Why hasn't the federal minimum wage changed? Raising it requires congressional action, legislation, the president's signature, etc. Paycor. +1. Many states have already set higher minimum wages, so the federal floor is less frequently binding. Paycom.com. +1. Political debate continues around wage increases, timing, and economic impacts. Because of this, workers in many states may see raises, but federal-only minimum wage workers likely will not see a raise in November 2025. State and local minimum wage increases for 2025. Even without a federal increase, many states and localities have already increased their minimum wage rates for 2025. Here are key examples. Washington, minimum wage in the state hit $16.66 per hour in 2025. Paycom.com. +1. California, state minimum wage is $16.50 per hour in 2025 for many employers. Paycom.com. +1. New York, in NYC, Long Island, Westchester, minimum wage is $16.50 per hour in 2025. In other parts of the state, $15.50 per hour. sbshours.adpinfo.com. +1. District of Columbia, minimum wage set to $17.95 per hour, effective July 1, 2025, under local law. transprnciekiapar.org. +1. Many states have scheduled or automatic adjustments based on inflation indexes. National Employment Law Project. +1. If you live or work in a state or locality with its own minimum wage law, check whether the increase has already happened or is scheduled. How much more could you earn? If your state minimum wage increased, here's what that might mean for you. Let's say a worker was making $15 per hour and the new wage is $16.50 per hour. That's an extra $1.50 per hour. If working full-time, 40 hours per week, that's roughly $60 extra per week, or about $3,120 extra per year before taxes, assuming 52 weeks. Some smaller increases, e.g. 35 cents per hour, may only yield a few $100s extra annually. The Sun. Employers and workers both need to know, the timing of when the new rate takes effect matters, sometimes January 1st, sometimes July 1st, sometimes other dates. So while not all increases are massive, any raise helps. If you work at the federal floor, $7.25 per hour. What if you are in a state where the minimum wage is still the federal floor, $7.25 per hour, and your employer pays only that? You will not see a raise unless your state or locality raises its minimum wage. For many of these workers, calls are active to raise wages, but until legislation passes, the rate stays. If you believe your employer should be paying more, due to local or state law, you may want to check with your state labor department. In other words, do not assume you'll get a raise just because it's November 2025, check your jurisdiction. Employers, timing and compliance risks. For employers, key practical points: verify the effective date of any new minimum wage in your state or locality. Sometimes the law changes mid-year, e.g. July 1st, rather than November. Update payroll systems so that correct wages apply to all hourly workers from the correct date. Communicate with employees about wage changes, new rates, pay date effects. Watch for tipped worker minimums and any training wage or youth wage rules. Failure to comply could lead to wage and hour violations, fines, or back pay claims. What to do if your wage didn't increase? If your state minimum wage didn't change and you're still at $7.25 per hour, or a low rate, check if your state has any scheduled increases coming in 2026 or later. Consider whether you are covered by local municipal minimum wage laws. Cities often set higher rates. Talk with your employer or union about future wage negotiations. Make sure you're paid the higher of federal, state, or local minimum wage. Federal law requires you receive the highest applicable rate. Dole. Being proactive ensures you don't miss out when your region next raises the floor. Timing: when do these raises take effect? Here are the key timing notes. Some states increased wages January 1st, 2025. sbshours.adpinfo.com, +1. Some cities or counties have mid-year effective dates, July 1st, etc. If your state lists an increase for September 30th, 2025, such as Florida, the new rate may apply from October or November. Wikipedia. Make sure to check your specific state Labor Department website for the exact date when your new minimum wage kicks in. Timing matters. A raise on July 1st is different than a raise on November 1st. Broader trends and future watch. What else is happening with minimum wages? There's a bill introduced in Congress, the Raise the Wage Act of 2025, aiming to raise the federal minimum wage to $17 per hour by 2030. Economic Policy Institute. +1. Many states are indexing their minimum wages to inflation, meaning automatic yearly increases. National Employment Law Project. Localities, cities and counties, are increasingly setting their own higher minimums, sometimes above state law. If you want to stay ahead, keep an eye on your state legislature, city council, or Labor Department for announcements in 2026 and beyond. What you should do now. Here's your action checklist. Whether you're an employee or employer, employees, check your current pay rate versus your state and local minimum wage. Employers, verify upcoming wage effective dates and update payroll. Everyone, know the highest applicable minimum wage, federal versus state versus local. Employees, if your wage is below the required rate, contact your state labor office or seek advice. Employers, ensure compliance with tipped, youth, and training wage rules. Everyone, subscribe to updates and share the video. Changes happen and missing them can cost. Like, share or subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.